Death has taken our beloved Rhoda Lieberman, a wonderful family member, friend, and devoted congregant of Temple Isaiah for many years. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Rhoda's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Psalm 15. Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them, or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Psalm 23. Adonai roi lo achzar, bino deshe yarvitzeni, amei menuchoti nahaleni. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. Psalm 121. Esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim ba'aretz. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, we read, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearn for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God, be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this hour. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." In his sorrow, Job cried out, "Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach." God has given, God has taken away, blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love, as we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. And there are many who have expressed beautiful memories of Rhoda, and a few are going to speak now, beginning with granddaughter Leslie, followed by daughter Sue, and then son Mike, and then Rabbi Adam Fisher. Okay.
I think all of you know how blessed you were by having Rhoda in your lives. And this, of course, is true of her family, but it is true of all of us who knew her and loved her. I have known Rhoda and her beloved Joe as I knew him. I never knew him as George. I always remember her smile, her interest in others, her kindness, her gentleness. It's hard for me to imagine that she ever had a sharp bone in her body. She and Joe were obviously lovebirds and longtime members of our congregation and our early morning study group, of whom I'm glad to see so many are here. And then at that time it was 6:30, and she continued to attend after Joe died. She was always the first to read. I always said, Rhoda, please begin, and she would start. Now, the first person to read is always called Rhoda, regardless of their actual name. So I still say, Rhoda, please begin. And we obviously remember her very, very fondly. I always remember her smile, her beautiful face. Oh, she was just a beautiful, beautiful woman, both in and out. Her glorious white hair and her generosity with hugs. But most important was how her family felt. So now Leslie and then Sue and Mike would like to say a word about her.
Test. Okay. Thank you for laughing. My grandmother was the last living grandparent on both sides of our family, as well as on Jamie's family. So this maybe should seem easy or somehow like a routine. However, it is not easy or anything that I'm used to. And honestly, there was a big part of me, and I know my sister, that figured our grandma would be here forever. My grandmother was such a huge part of my life. When I think of my childhood, she and my grandfather are what come to mind first. It was as if they were a second set of parents to my sister and I. We spent every Saturday together, and every holiday we gathered at their home in Stony Brook to celebrate. Most Friday nights, my sister and I would attend services here at Temple Isaiah with them. After the service, we would stay for some cookies and then head back to their house for a sleepover. In the morning, we would make pancakes together. My sister would always say that they were burned, but my grandmother, who had a positive way of viewing things, would say, no, that's the coloring from the pan. We would laugh, knowing that that dark color did not come from a pan. However, we accepted that as the answer and thought they tasted delicious. This is just one example, and there are many, of how my grandmother's optimistic mindset could create a positive twist on things. My grandparents attended every one of our sporting events, birthday parties, science fairs, school performances, and so on and so on. My grandma once sat and watched me play a 3-hour tennis match. True to herself, she stayed the entire match. Covered up from the sun in her big sun hat and long sleeve shirt, she took pictures of me playing and took notes to go along with those pictures. In fact, she took pictures of almost everything we did. She documented important details of our lives to go along with the photos. Later, she created photo albums for all of her grandchildren, and every picture in those photo albums has a handwritten description. I feel so fortunate having those albums now to look back on all of those great memories we had. After that 3-hour tennis match, we went back to my house, and she and my grandfather brought over a Carvel cake to celebrate. Yes, I won the match, but that wasn't what the celebration was about. It was about sticking with it, having the determination and grit to play for 3 straight hours, and trying my best. She and my grandfather were instrumental in teaching us important lessons in life. It didn't matter who won. It didn't matter if someone made a bad call. It was about the participation and giving your best effort in all we did. My grandma was one of the most positive, sweetest, accepting humans I have ever known. In fact, as a young child, I believed everybody had the same middle name, Dear. Everybody was called Dear. Leslie Dear, Dana Dear, Georgie Dear, Sarah Dear, Ira Dear. She was so warm and loving that she brought it out even in the way she said your name. My grandma, also later known as Grandma Whitehair, was beautiful. Her physical beauty was evident at first glance, but it did not take long to see her inner beauty. She was selfless, caring, kind, and as I said earlier, accepting. She saw the good in everyone and found positive things in every situation. My grandma valued family and tradition above all. Being around family and amongst loved ones meant the world to her. She radiated love, and it was felt by those around her. Some may say that she loved to cook, but the cooking isn't really what she loved. It was the act of making others feel good that she loved. She did that in many ways, and feeding us was one of them. Giving us hugs so tight and smushing us between her bosom, as she called it, was another, and she did that a lot. She showed love with her endearing smile, the look of approval she had in her eye, and her warm, kind nature. Anyone lucky enough to know her was touched by her beautiful inner light and loving energy. I have inherited some of my grandma's qualities, which I am fortunate for, and can only strive to carry out her legacy. If I live my life with a fraction of the positivity and kindness that she did, I will consider that a success. She left us all with so much love, and it will forever live on in my heart.
Sue?
Let's see if I can do this. It's not easy to write a eulogy for a woman who embodied every positive, beautiful, incredible characteristic. If Jewish people were bestowed sainthood, she would definitely receive the title. When I was envisioning myself standing in front of all of you, I started looking at various poems. The one that I found that really touched me was a poem written by Rumi, a famous Persian poet. Love is not written on paper, for paper can be erased. Nor is it etched in stone, for stone can be broken. But it is inscribed on a heart, and there it shall remain forever. So, here's a eulogy I wrote for my mom. Mom, I've been saying, please stay. You touched so many lives and gave everyone your love, to both family and friends. Mom, I've been saying, please stay. You were an incredible mom, grandma, and great-grandma. All of us knew we were unconditionally loved. Mom, I know I've been saying, please stay. You made the best of COVID, which was so horrible. We missed our hugs and kisses for 13 months. So horrible for both of us. Mom, I've been saying, please stay. Mike, Lauren, and I were with you, FaceTiming twice a week during the past 3 years, which made us feel so safe and warm together. Mom, I asked you to stay, but I know you had to leave me. You will always be in my life, as I shall carry your spirit and your love with me. I love you, Mom.
Mike?
Thank you for coming today to celebrate the life of my mom, Rhoda Lieberman. Mom had a wonderful life. Actually, 2 of them. Her first life included a 60-year marriage to the love of her life, George Joe Lieberman, also Max, by the way. Mom grew up poor and worked a series of jobs until she landed a good job with her own office, answering mail for popular mystery writer Clayton Rawson, which allowed her to support herself and my dad until he graduated college. When my sister was born, they were living on North Brother Island in the East River with only access to New York City by ferry. After that, she never worked away from the home. As noted in my mom's obituary, she and Dad moved around following Dad's VA jobs. We spent a lot of time in Brockton, Massachusetts. Mom enjoyed it so much that I thought she would always identify as a New Englander for the rest of her life. She loved JFK, Robert Frost, and lobster, and had many fond memories of Brockton. In Brockton, Mom was June Cleaver, if June had spied on the John Birch Society on behalf of the FBI. I never remember there being cigarettes in the house, and alcohol was reserved for Passover wine. There was no swearing, and TV watching was strictly PG. Movies too, by the way. All we watched was Disney. If I had to capture her in one word, it would be nurturing. We reluctantly moved from Brockton to Buffalo, and then happily to Stony Brook. She thoroughly enjoyed trips back to Massachusetts, most notably, in my experience, for my daughter Sarah's wedding, and for a 1-week Cape Cod trip with my wife and me. Both times, she relished seeing sights, remembered and new. I think her favorite touristy things was eating a lot of lobster and visiting, touring Harvard. I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but one day she no longer longed to live in Brockton. 12 Meadow Drive in Stony Brook was her home. Mom and Dad loved spending time together, frequently holding hands. Had it ended with that, she would have been a very happy person. Unfortunately, Dad succumbed to illness, and Mom knew that if she were going to be alone, she wanted to live at Jefferson's Ferry. There, she flourished for many years in independent living, along with a number of her friends. One of Mom's regrets was not having attended college, but she did have her dorm experience at Jefferson's Ferry. Regular dinner gatherings and jammy movie sessions with friends. I think her favorite activity was hanging out in the main common area and interacting with people that came by. She loved people and people loved her. What was not to love? She was friendly, caring, inquisitive, and upbeat. She loved her food. Right up until the end, she was enjoying pastrami sandwiches. Mom grew up poor, and as a child of the Depression, she was very frugal in her spending. My father, even more so. A thing of beauty is a joy forever is a line from John Keats' poem Endymion that was displayed in her elementary school PS 202. That stuck with her so much that when she saw an oversized book of Endymion from 1888 at an antique and bookstore, she had to have it and bought it for $35 on a payment plan of $2 a month. My father wasn't thrilled, but it made her happy. It's a beautiful book, which I still have and cherish. She didn't go as often as she liked, but she relished trips to New York City. A fond memory I have is taking her to see Richard Burton in Camelot and dining at the Russian Tea Room. During her later years, when Mom's mobility was limited, a bunch of our family members went to see Hamilton and told her all about it. And afterwards, in her mind, she went to see it and had a wonderful time. We did not tell her that she imagined it. Someone in Mom's position might have been negative, but that wasn't the kind of person she was. Mom had a number of enjoyable trips in her mind. It reflected who she was. She was the best mom for me. Loved her dearly. I miss her. And I'll delight in my memories, their spirit, and for the rest of my days.
I want to share with you some of the things that people have written. First, from Harold Guberman, who has been a member of the early morning study group. He couldn't be here. He's not well. She was a sweet person and always had something nice to say. My favorite memory is a time when we were going to Adam and Eileen's house, go to our house for a progressive dinner thing and a dessert party. And Tina and I drove Rhoda, and as we were walking to the house, she stood between us and held both our hands. So typical of her. And this is from Megan. I'm terribly sorry to hear of your mother's passing. I have such fond memories of the times that I have spent with her. She always remembered exactly who I was, even in the midst of many Zeitlers. I remember her smile most and her looking at you and Aunt Mary and Sarah and Janet with such love. May she rest in peace and be united with your father. And this is from Linda Cohn, who from Florida. With tears in my eyes, I have to say how much I will always remember how she looked at you with such love, and the way she would take my hand and hold it in hers. Her softness, her kindness will always be remembered. And I especially loved how your mother and father would take such great care of each other, truly an inspiration and a beautiful memory that I was always cherished for knowing them both. Lots of love to you, Sue. And Diane Wilner writes, I have so many pictures, but the problem is that Mom was always the photographer, therefore she is not in a lot. Mom was like another mother to me and another grandmother to my children when they were little. Mom and Dad used to visit very often to help us and just to play with the kids. When I had Lisa and you were already graduated from college, Rhoda and George loved to come and visit the little ones. Their kindness and love toward me and my family will never be forgotten. They were more than sister and brother-in-laws. They were my family. And Svi writes from Israel, I am very sorry to hear about your mother. She was a wonderful person, and she and your sorrow and your father were like parents to me and my wife when we were living in the United States. We were living without our family. They helped us a lot. Your mother used to send all our family birthday cards. We'll miss her very much. And Rose writes, there are so many wonderful memories with your mom. I remember to this day waiting for your mom to pick me up on Friday to sleep over. Of course, we had an Aunt Rhoda portion of ice cream. Always looked forward to going to her house on Fridays. Your mother introduced me to the world of art. We shared an interest in expanding my world. She not only explained pictures in the Carriage House Museum and why painters use certain materials and colors, but we started going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I was always very excited to take the train with her. Wonderful experiences. We both loved Georgia O'Keeffe, and she was thrilled when I brought her a book of her collections. Grand plans were to go to New Mexico to see her exhibit in person. Your mom was involved in such a loving way with the girls. We used to spend Thanksgiving with all of you and celebrate Elisa's birthday. The girls still talk about when she came to Connecticut to spend a weekend in a hotel with the other Girl Scout moms and daughters. We had such a fun time. We even left our hotel room at night when we all should be sleeping, and went down to the bar and had huge ice cream sundaes. Your family is truly blessed with having such an amazing woman to look up to. Your mom gave us so much love. We are blessed to be part of that. May your mom and dad be together in peace and love. Sending you much love, hugs, and sincere condolences. All of you know from these, and your own experience certainly, and from these very warm and loving memories, show how clearly all of these memories that you have of her, and everybody knew how blessed they were by having her in their lives. She was just a glorious, glorious human being. But I also want you to know how much you surely must have meant to her life. No one can be so caring and so giving unless others return it. No one can be so loving without it being returned in some way. And so you obviously were a blessing in her life as she was in yours. Just as you have been blessed by her, you certainly have been a blessing to her. And I hope throughout all of this very painful time that you will always remember of not only what she gave to you, but what you gave to her as a wonderful legacy.
In hearing about the life of Rhoda Lieberman, it is clear that she led a good and full life, as you heard from the beautiful words of Leslie, Sue, Mike, and Rabbi Fisher. And we are appreciative to all of you and for those who sent in beautiful memories and words that Rabbi Fisher shared with us. We're appreciative to all of you for your ability to express so poignantly the thoughts and memories shared by many, including those here today. As Sue told me, it's not easy to write a eulogy for a woman who embodied every positive, beautiful, incredible characteristic. None of us can find words for her, but anyone who spent 1 minute with her felt her and knew who she was. If Jewish people were bestowed sainthood, she would receive that. In hearing about the life of Rhoda Lieberman and the many people she positively impacted, it is clear that though your hearts are broken, she is in a place where she will continue to nourish and provide for a garden of the future. Some of that garden is here today, and there are others who helped form it in years past. Her loving husband of 60 years, Joe, siblings Edwin, Gerald, and Jesse, all of blessed memory. Her sister Dolly, children Sue, Michael, and Lauren, and partners Ira, Mary, and Kathy. Grandchildren Dana, Leslie, Sarah, Janet, Brian, and Allison. Great-grandchildren Charlie, Lexi, Kaylee, Julia, Nicholas, Mary Julia, and Janet Grace. And an extended network of nieces, nephews, cousins, and their children. Rhoda's memory and legacy will continue to be with you as long as you continue to make her memory a blessing and an inspiration in all you do. I ask that you take a moment of silence for the special memories of Rhoda that we all have. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Ametzei Menucha Nechona, Ametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashechina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kizor Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Rivka Tova, Bat Shimon Vasilia Shahalcha Le'olama, Ahana Bal Harachamim, Yastireha Beseter Kenafav Leolamim, Veitzror Bitzor HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Rhoda Lieberman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.